Title: The Passage of Time in Mojang. Part 1: The Tragic Beginning. A quiet and nostalgic piano melody softly plays, giving a feeling as if fragments of faded memories are being scattered in the wind like an old black and white photograph. The scenery of a faded old schoolyard, the nostalgic veranda of a worn hammock with an aged wooden floor, and the distant sound of a child's cheerful laughter decorate the opening scene of the script. All these scenes unfold hazily yet vividly, like a piece of the past deeply embedded in the mind of Grandma Oki. In a blue government-subsidized apartment building called Himangshi, within a space of about 15 pyong, time seemed to flow unusually slowly. The walls bore the traces of time with faded colors, and the old furniture creaked, as if bearing witness to its long history. The damp air was filled with warmth instead of the smell of mold, perhaps due to the extreme love that filled the space. Here, Grandma Oki, who was in her 80s, lived while taking care of her disabled daughter, Kim Sunai, who was in her 60s. Despite receiving the utmost care from her descendants, Grandma Oki's hands never had a day of rest. From dawn until late at night, she changed her daughter's diapers, cleaned her body, and prepared meals. Her hands were wrinkled and rough, but they carried the weight of a noble life more than any jewel. Her rough and tough hands were like a badge of honor for the years she willingly endured everything for her daughter. Sunai lay silently in a state of total paralysis, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. Grandma Oki had been by her daughter's side like a shadow, becoming her hands and feet for over half a century. Like all mothers in the world, to Grandma Oki, her daughter was an existence as vital as life itself. She was the reason for her life and the meaning of her breath. Even the sunlight shining through the window seemed warm, reflecting her dedication. The small room felt like a vast universe, where the lives of the two women depended on each other and stood strong. The story goes back to a distant past. In 1939, during the turbulent period of the Japanese occupation, Oki was a brave young woman who taught at an elementary school. She was a rare intellectual who received higher education at the time, and was a young teacher full of passionate enthusiasm for teaching students. Her eyes always sparkled with wisdom and love, and her voice was clear and powerful. Her figure on the podium was as dignified and beautiful as a lily. Her teachings were like sowing seeds of hope in a harsh era. Every morning, dressed neatly in a hanbok, her steps towards the sunny school were filled with hope. Each step felt light, as if butterflies were fluttering around. The school was her everything, and the students were her future. Her young daughter, Sunai, was a 4-year-old girl who received care from the housekeeper at home. In those days, children were pure and innocent, brightening the world with just a small laughter. Sunai was the same. Running around the house all day, waiting for her mother to come home, she was a lovely child. Her cheerful laughter echoed throughout the house. The image of the child holding onto her mother's skirt and babbling with her small hands comes to mind. Oki's life was filled with a beloved daughter and a meaningful teaching career. She lived each day with gratitude for everything she had. However, the peaceful daily life was shattered by a tragedy that came without warning. It was a moment like suddenly dark clouds covering the clear sky and thunder striking. On that day, Oki went to work as usual, leaving her young daughter Sune with the housekeeper. It was a brief moment. The child slipped from the housekeeper's back to the floor, hitting her head and neck severely. The screams echoed through the house, cutting through Oki's heart like a sharp blade. Upon hearing the news, Oki dropped everything and rushed home in a panic. Her footsteps were soaked with sweat from urgency, her heart pounding as if it would burst at any moment. The scene before her was harrowing. Holding her daughter's cold body, she cried endlessly. Her heart felt like it was tearing apart. The child couldn't even hold her head up properly, barely conscious. Her small hands and feet lay limp, motionless. The doctor's cold diagnosis took away all of Oki's hope.
There is a high possibility of full-body paralysis.
Words felt like a death sentence. Despair, like dark clouds, quickly engulfed Oki's life. Her world seemed to lose its light in an instant, sinking into darkness. A cold sensation swept over her body as if her blood was chilling. Tears streamed down her eyes like never-ending streams. From then on, Oki's life turned into a long journey solely for her daughter. She carried her daughter, who couldn't even hold her head up properly, searching all over the country for hospitals. Traditional medicine clinics, and acupuncture centers with a reputation for being accommodating. Her footsteps were wearing thin. Like a lonely warrior challenging the impossible, she never gave up and never let go of her daughter's hand. Clinging to a small spark of hope, she crossed rough mountain paths and rivers. The winding mountain paths deepened her suffering, and the cold river water seemed to flow along with her tears. She visited doctors until their thresholds wore out, walking and walking to save every penny. Her feet swelled and her shoes wore out. But all her efforts were in vain. Her daughter's condition did not improve. Doctors shook their heads, traditional medicine practitioners remained silent. Her daughter continued to lie in her room, staring at the ceiling. No matter how the world outside changed, all her daughter saw were the old ceiling tiles. Her small world was limited to the ceiling, where time seemed to stand still. Even the passing of time felt meaningless to her daughter. Adding insult to injury, misfortune dragged Oki's life deeper into despair. Her husband left her for another woman. He disappeared like smoke. Abandoning his responsibilities as a father and a husband, his sudden departure left a deep wound in Oki's heart. Her beloved husband's betrayal was another dagger plunged into her already weary life. It felt like a deep hole had been pierced in her heart. Left alone, Oki had to face the daunting reality with her disabled daughter. She was now not only a mother to a child with disabilities but also the sole provider for the whole family. The weight of the world rested heavily on her delicate shoulders, making it difficult for her to even breathe properly. Tears flowed incessantly from her eyes. The tears she shed on her pillow every night seemed to never dry up. Her life seemed to be shaking at its roots in an instant.
Up next, story explanation.
Hey there, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you share with us, articles, notes, research, and really dive in together. We pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits, and try to figure out what makes it all tick. Today, you've got something pretty powerful. It's a story based on real events that one of you shared. It's structured in 4 parts, and it outlines just an incredible journey of human endurance and love, really.
Absolutely. It's more than just a story, isn't it? It's a really profound look at motherly love, resilience, stretched across, well, decades and decades. This first part we're looking at today, it's crucial. It sets the foundation. We meet the main people, and we learn about the single event that just changes everything for them.
Right, so our mission here is to unpack just this first section. The source calls it the beginning of tragedy. We want to get the initial context, the key moments, the emotions, what sets the stage for this incredibly long, difficult path they're on. We'll definitely get to the later parts in future deep dives, but for now,
Okay.
let's get into this first part. So the story actually opens in the present day. Paints a picture of this small place, a permanent rental apartment. It's in Purindong, Huimeng City, and it's tiny 15 pyong. That's what, about 500 square feet?
Yeah, roughly. Around 49 square meters. Very small.
Yeah.
And the description highlights its age, Time feels slow there. Faded wallpaper, creaky furniture. But importantly, it says the feeling isn't dreary. It's actually filled with this specific kind of warmth, a presence.
And that warmth, it comes from the 2 people living there. We have grandmother Oki, who is 100 years old.
100, wow.
And her daughter, Kim Sune, who is 68.
Wait, hang on. The 100-year-old grandmother is the caregiver. That's remarkable. What does the source say about her daily life?
It's pretty incredible. It describes her hands as just constantly busy, dawn till late night. She's caring for her daughter, changing diapers, bathing her, feeding her. The writer really focuses on Oki's hands, wrinkled, rough, from a century of living.
Yeah.
But also, like, they carry the weight of this noble life, almost like medals for everything she's endured.
Medals. That's a powerful image. And the daughter, Sune, what's her situation?
We learn she's in a state of full body paralysis, just lying silently, eyes usually fixed on the ceiling. And the account really stresses this. Oki has been her daughter's hands and feet, her constant shadow, really, for over 50 years.
50 years. Just think about that.
Yeah. And there's this one line in the source that just hits you. For Oki, her daughter is her life, the reason she keeps breathing. It makes that tiny room feel, well, not just like an apartment, but like a whole universe where their lives are completely bound together. Resilient despite everything.
Thinking about them now, 168, it just makes you ask, how did this all begin? What was the start of this long, incredibly hard journey? And yeah, the source takes us way, way back.
It really does. Jumps us back to 1939.
Which, context-wise, was during the Japanese colonial period in Korea, a difficult time already.
And we meet Oki as a young woman. She's described as confident, educated, an elementary school teacher. Now, getting higher education, especially for a woman back then, that wasn't common at all.
Right. So she's presented as this notable intellectual figure, really, passionate about teaching. The source mentions her sharp eyes, clear voice. Her presence on the podium is even compared to a noble lily.
And teaching wasn't just a job for her. The account says she saw it as, like, sowing seeds of hope in a pretty barren time. She'd go to school each morning in her hanbok, traditional Korean dress steps, light, full of hope.
Yeah.
To school, her students. That was her future, her everything.
And at home?
At home, looked after by a housekeeper, was her little daughter, Sune. She was 4 years old then.
Ah, just 4.
Yeah. Described as this lovely, bright child. Her laughter could light up the world, it says. She'd play, wait for her mom to come home. There's this sweet image of her holding on to her mother's skirt with her little hand. A cherished memory.
So at that point, Oki's life feels, well, fulfilled, meaningful work, a daughter she adores, living with gratitude day by day.
Exactly. It's this picture of completeness, of hope, which makes what happens next just so much more shocking.
Yeah, the shift is abrupt. The source describes it like a sudden storm appearing out of a clear blue sky, a total blindside.
It happened in just a moment, a terrifyingly brief moment. Suni was being carried on the housekeeper's back, and somehow she slipped, fell.
Oh no.
Hit her head and neck severely. The scream that followed apparently just tore through the house, cut into Oki's heart like a sharp blade, the source says.
You can only imagine hearing that news.
Oki rushed home, desperate, her footsteps heavy with dread, soaked with sweat, heart pounding, just absolute panic.
And the scene she found.
Devastating. Her daughter's tiny body, cold, limp, couldn't lift her head, limbs still. Oki's cries, described as just heartbreaking.
And then the diagnosis from the doctor.
Yeah. Full body paralysis is likely.
Oh, gosh.
The writer calls those words a death sentence. Oki's world just plunged into darkness, despair. Instantly, her blood ran cold. The tears described as flowing endlessly, like a spring that wouldn't stop.
And right there, in that single awful moment, her entire life changes course. It becomes this relentless journey, focused completely on her daughter.
Yes. Her immediate reaction is just this desperate search for any hope, any cure. She carries Suni, travels all over the country. Every place she hears about hospitals, traditional medicine clinics, acupuncturists, anywhere. There's even a whisper of a potential treatment.
Like a lone warrior, the source says, challenging the impossible, her footsteps worn out.
And the physical toll. It's right there in the account. Walking constantly to save money, feet swollen, shoes falling apart.
It mentions difficult mountain paths, cold rivers she crossed, almost like the landscape reflected her own pain and tears.
But tragically, it was all for nothing.
All the efforts were in vain, is what the source says. Doctors, traditional healers, nobody offered any real hope. Sunair just remained lying down. Her world shrunk to the view of the ceiling no matter how the outside world changed. Time just stopped for her physically.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, another blow. Almost unbelievable.
Right. Just when you think it can't get worse, her husband leaves.
Runs off with another woman. Disappears, the source says, like smoke.
Wow. Abandonment on top of everything else. It's described as another dagger, isn't it? In her already weary life, left this deep, painful wound.
The result.
Yeah.
Stark. Absolute. Oki's left totally alone with a disabled child.
Completely alone. She has to become everything. Mother, provider, caregiver, bearing the entire weight of the world, it says, on her own shoulders.
Her life, already shattered by the accident, now just rocked again by this betrayal. The tears, the sore notes just kept coming night after night.
So when we look back at just this first part, at this beginning of tragedy, what really hits you?
It's the sheer weight of it all, isn't it? The accumulation.
Yeah.
In such a short time, she loses her daughter's health, her husband, the life she knew. It's just an overwhelming burden right from the start of what we know is going to be a very, very long road.
It really drives home how suddenly and completely life can just flip, turn upside down. And yet, even here, right at the beginning, the source shows these glimpses of her strength. Oki's hands, that tireless journey. You see the seeds of this incredible resilience, this mother's love that will somehow carry her forward.
Makes you wonder, though, after a start like that, so catastrophic, how does someone find the will to just keep going day after day?
Exactly. And what the source material makes clear is that this devastating beginning is just the beginning. This isn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. Oki and Sune's journey goes on for decades. The later parts, they dig into her ongoing sacrifices, how she managed to provide, how she tried to connect with her daughters, stimulate her mind, just being there day in, day out as they both get older.
Right. The next part apparently starts to show the practical side.
Yeah.
How did she even survive financially after leaving teaching? How did she maintain that fierce devotion through all those years?
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Based on just this first piece, the immense loss, health, partner, career, the life she knew, what kind of deep inherent strength does it take? What allows someone like Oki to not just survive that kind of beginning, but to actively choose to live every single day for decades solely for the person she loves?
What could the next 50, 60 years possibly look like after a start like this?
That's a heavy question the source leaves us with right here in these early stages.
Yeah. A very profound question. We'll wrap up this deep dive here for today. We will definitely pick this up and continue unpacking the second part of this incredibly powerful story next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us create even better content.